Hello and welcome to Springvale Seventh-day Adventist Church. We're glad that you could join us and we hope that you enjoy the following message.
Good morning. Yes, it's a beautiful morning. Just it's been pretty cold, and I think that a lot of people stay away because it's cold. But it's good to see you all here, especially Helena. I think that I haven't seen her for a while. Some of you guys that I don't know, please feel welcome. And especially there are some people here that I haven't met before, but probably you have met me, but I'm sorry that I don't remember. But I think some people at the back there I haven't met before. Welcome, and this lane I think the lady right at the back I haven't met before. Sitting right next to, and some of you guys that are sitting at the back, Good to see you. Good to see you. And if you have been here before, please feel cozy and welcome in this place. Well, Melissa did a good introduction. I don't need to do any introductions to the sermon. Decisions. We make decisions all the time, don't we? We some of us may think, well, I don't make decisions. Yes, you did. You made the decision to come to church today. Secondly, you make decisions whether you want to go to work or whether you want to go to school or not. You make decisions as to what you're going to do this year or the year after or the year after. You make decisions, especially if you're retiring or you're a retiree already, as to how you're going to proceed next year. And we make all sorts of decisions. The younger ones, we make more decisions than anybody else. So, but it makes sense to make decisions with heartfulness and commitment. It is not a good thing to sort of like make a decision and sort of like be wondering about whether, we should be happy with what we made. We should know that tomorrow the decision that we made today was the right one. And we should know that when tomorrow comes, that decision will still be good. Right? But how do we do that? Some of us walk through life as if life was full of, eggshells everywhere. That is, it is like like as if there were bombs every place you step on. It can be like that sometimes. Because why do I say this? Because we shouldn't be like. Personally, I tell you this because, and some of the stuff that I'm telling you, most in fact of the stuff I'm telling you is because I've experienced it, and it's helped me. And in most of the decisions the way that I'm telling you today, I have done, I have never ever regretted them. Sometimes some things I do have a couple of regrets. The ones that are the things that I regret the most? Do you know what things we should really regret the most? When we don't make those decisions based on love. And I'm talking about the love of God in our hearts. That is where, and I will point that out sometime in the sermon. In Proverbs 3 verses 5 onwards, I made a mistake. They should have been 5 and 6. Proverbs 3 verses 5 and 6. And that I think that this should be one of our verses that we should know by heart. Right? If you if you're a Christian, this should be one of your texts that you know by heart. You should know this text back to front. You should savor it every day, because every day, like I say, we make decisions. And it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." Trust in the Lord with all your heart. That's a question. Do you? Do you trust in the Lord with all your heart? How can you trust in the Lord with all your heart if you're wavering about things? And again, it comes down to what sort of relationship you build with God. Trust is based on what? Somebody tell me. Trust is based on what? Trust is built, isn't it? You can't trust somebody unless you know them, right? I cannot trust you, really. I mean, you look like a good guy. I'm picking on him because I know I can. But I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying, I can't trust you because I don't know you, right? And I don't think that you can say the same thing to me. Any one of you, anyone. I can pick anyone. If I don't know you, then that's who I should trust the least. But if we know God, then we can trust that word, because He's been there for us in the past. We can trust Him again. The truth is, please put your hand up if God has ever failed you. I mean, really, be honest. If He has ever failed you, can you put your hand up? I don't think there would be many. Some of us may think sometimes, because we pray to God and some prayers God doesn't answer, then we think, well, God has failed us. But that's from our understanding. Doesn't God know the best for us? Do we think that God knows the best for us? Then why is it that when something that we think is really bad happens in front of us, and it's not a good thing according to our understanding of life, then why is it that we get all upset? Why is it that we do that? This test, we should apply this to everything that we do. For example, when we are faced, and I'm saying this because sometimes we have to trust God with our lives. You go into the operating table, and I don't wish you that. It's pretty uncertain. I've been operated twice in my life, and I never wanted to have an operation, but I had to anyway, because you only have operations when you have to, not that you want to. Nobody wants to be operated and waste time afterwards in a hospital or whatever. But and you have to wait there. I remember when Jasmine, my firstborn, she was only 2 months old when she was operated on. She had this hernia, and she was operated at 2 months. She was a premature baby, and so she was only this big. She had been a month when she was premature, about this big. She's a tall girl now. You wouldn't think that she was that little when she was born. And at 2 months old, she was just a little bit bigger. And she was about this big when she was operated. And we kind of like, we felt like, oh, poor little thing, But haven't you ever signed a paper for the doctors if you go into an operating table? Don't you sign a paper that has to say that in case you die, it is not the hospital's fault, and it is not the doctor's fault? They tell you that. I'm not trying to tell you doctors are bad or hospitals are bad. I'm saying to you that even they know that the chances are pretty good that you will survive, some situations like if you have a stomach operation or heart surgery, they know that there is 99% that it'll be fine. But every now and then, even stuff like that. I remember one of the Bee Gees. Anyone knows who the Bee Gees were? Some of you may know. Those that are into music and know this is a 70s group, very popular. And one of them just got, you would think, they said that it was a stomach blockage. I remember this on the news. And everybody thought, oh, well, should be fine. He's going to be fine. Probably his family thought he's going to be fine. And guess what? He wasn't fine. He died. He died just out of a stomach. The stomach was blocked. You would think that that's a simple operation. They had to go in there and get stuff out. It did. Obviously, something went wrong, and he died on the operating table. Recently, I had a friend that she would have been probably in her 70s, early 70s, a picture of health. She's in Tasmania. She belonged to the church, the last church I had there, Rosny Church. And just yesterday I found out that she had just got a bacterial infection. She didn't know that it was a bacteria. She got meningococcal, and she got, which is a bacterial infection. She didn't know, and she landed in emergency, and she was in the hospital for 7 days, and eventually she died. You would think that nowadays that wouldn't happen, but it does. So I'm just saying to you, sometimes when it comes to this verse, something like this, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. It's a tall order. And so we need to make history with God. We need to have a history with God. You will not trust God unless you have a history with Him. Unless you've seen how good He's been with you. And the place that you can start with is the fact that He started whatever work. Remember in Philippians 1:6 He says, I started this good work in you, I will finish it. And you have to trust that He is with you. But you have to test your faith. You have to test your faith. When you go into decisions like this, you have to test your faith, and you have to step out of the boat. Step out of your comfort zone and trust Him. And trust Him that you're going to have a loud voice without this mic that I'm here. Trust that God is going to help you in situations where it's not as good as what you've had before. Sometimes, for example, some of us may be thinking, wow, how am I going to do it? Life is so expensive. There is all sorts of, I've been thinking about this myself. Another 15 years or so and I'll be retired perhaps, I don't know. And you think, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Now, based on what I've had with God so far, He's been pretty good, and I can think, well, I just need to trust Him day at a time, and I'm going to be fine. But I'm just telling you, life comes like that. And by the way, some of you guys who are pretty young now, won't be long and you'll be my age. I can promise you that. It won't be long. It won't be long. Life just goes just like that. It's just like you wake up one day and next day you are the age that I am, and you think, where did my life go? let's continue. In a dark world, it makes sense to find light, don't you think? 1 John 1:5 tells us what? That what? God is what? Darkness? That tells us the opposite. Because sometimes we may blame God for what happens to us. And John says to us in 1 John 1:5, he says, "This is a message we have heard from him and declare to you. God is light. In him there is no darkness at all." There is no darkness at all. If we claim to have fellowship with him, this is verse 6, with him, yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not live by the truth. But if we walk in the light, are you writing this down, kids? We walk in the light as he is in the light. We have fellowship with one another. And the blood of Jesus, his son, purifies us from all sin. He walks in light. And if he walks in light, and he is light, how are we going to ever be in darkness? You know, sometimes, why is there uncertainty as we walk into the future? This is not just a sermon. This is about reality. God is more real than me. Like I said, I'll probably be here another 30 years and I'll be 6 feet under, for all I know, based on my family history. My dad died at 67, so I do not think that I will live up to 100, based on, just my, and some of you say, oh, don't talk like that. But I'm a pretty realistic sort of person. And I tell you that is my life, and I accept it. And I accept it. If God gives me more life, wonderful. But I think, why do I want to live that long? Anyway, when there is so many people in this world that could do it just as well or better than me. But our tendencies are to go into the darkness and not into the light. We tend to, I know, and I used to do this, by the way, and I think that especially a lot of our youth, but also adults too, sometimes we can't wait for Sabbath to be over. Why? So that we can do we can get back to our life. We can go, for example, when I just joined the church, and I think it's about, sometimes, a lot of the times I used to stay right up to the evening, in church and do all sorts of activities. And I didn't do anything wrong, by the way. But I couldn't wait in the beginning because I was used to doing something on the weekend for myself, like playing table tennis or doing other activities. And I couldn't wait for Sabbath to finish so I could go and watch a good movie. Now, why is that? Do you know what I find now? That the more I spend time with God, an hour is not enough. An hour is not enough. It just goes like that, and I'm thinking, Lord, I haven't even started talking to you, and I've got to do something else. Because, I stick to times too. But why is it that our tendency goes into the darkness? Perhaps we need to, and I have found in myself, that's what I'm telling you, that perhaps I need to spend a little bit more time with God. And some of that taste that I had for the world, I hope that it disappears more and more. I want to be useful to people in the world. But if I'm just like them, how am I going to make any difference? Right? If I'm supposed to be light, I think that somebody said here, if the people, they can't see any difference with us. I was telling this pastor, because in the other church that I go to, there is a pastor and his wife that used to be the founders of the church that I was in, that I started going to church in Sydney. And I said to her, you know what, one thing, and I told her, I said, because she's now an elderly person, started, I think she's late 70s or close to 80. And I said, one thing I remember, that when I was going to your place, when I was just starting to come to church, I wasn't even a Christian yet, but as I was going to your place, there was peace in your place, and I could see that there was something different. I knew it wasn't perfect, but there was peace in your place. And now I know, after I've read all this text to you, I know why. There was a light there that attracted me to that. Because although I didn't do anything wrong in the eyes of the world, I know that deep inside, I needed something like that. And I needed a community of people that kind of like was light to me. At the time I didn't realize, but I felt really good with these people. By the way, sometimes when some people have come to our place and they stay with us, so they stick around and they come to our place, they said, oh, so good to come to your place. That's what people have said. We feel like this, we feel like coming back. And I can tell you, I can see that. We're just normal people, from our perspective. But what I'm saying to you is that if God is in your house, God is in your life, you will also be light. And you will have less tendency to go into the darkness. Although that shade inside of us, that bit of darkness, it's always kind of like there, trying to, grab onto whatever light you've got. So that's why we need to be close to Jesus. Jesus is the light of the world, and he can give us wisdom and guidance. And I'm going to go quickly because we're almost finished with the time. And in John 8:12, we're told, I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't be stumbling through the darkness, because you will have the light that leads to life. In James 1:5, verses 1, chapter 1, verses 5 to 8, we are told this too. Just about everywhere you see, in Paul's writings, in James' writings, in Peter's writing, it points us to, to the light. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He is double-minded, unstable in all he does. And this can also apply to a woman as well. It's for both. This is a generic statement. You must remember that the Bible was written back in those days, but it applies to everybody. When we go to God, he is light. He wants the best for us. And we should come boldly before him and ask him. And of course saying to him, look, I trust myself with all my heart in your ways. Whatever you want me, Lord, to do or to decide, please be with me. And when I come here, Lord, I trust that you will do the right thing, Lord. You will lead me into where I need to do, what decision I need to make. A lot of people wonder, how do I make good decisions? but it's between you and the Lord. Some of us, we want God to give us a good decision, but we don't want to do what God wants us to do. We want to still live in the darkness sometimes. We want to share this darkness here that we enjoy, and we want God to guide our lives. It doesn't work that way. That's what it's saying here. God will not help a double-minded person, somebody who doesn't know where they want to head. Before you ask God to guide your life, be sure that your heart is totally with Him. If your heart is totally with Him, if you say, Lord, whatever you want to do, I will do. Guess what? God comes in and He gives you precisely what you need. He gives you precisely the job that you need. He gives you precisely the future that you need, not perhaps the future that you may need. Many times I've wondered, how come, Lord, I don't have this and I don't have that? But guess what? God has allowed me to have so many things that I think that if I had just been up to me, probably I would have blown it. But, when it comes to the Lord, we got to be patient and just persist with Him until what He wants us to do is really our best decision in that situation. In Matthew 22, and you might think this text here, 22, you may think it has got nothing to do with decisions. Well, it does. Let me explain to you. But let's read it first. Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 to 40. Because it falls right into what I've been saying. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Why is this important in your decision making? Why is that while God is the light of the world, why is this important? Because if He is the light of the world, and He is in our heart, guess what? We will love Him. We will be in this sort of relationship that you want to do anything. When God says to you, jump here, you do. Like this, I've heard this many times, and probably you've heard it many times. And to a sergeant, right, in the army, you cannot say, I won't jump. They will make you jump. If they say jump, you have to jump, right? Yes? The only question that you can ask is how high you can jump. Have you heard that before? How high or how far do you have to jump? But you cannot question, the order to jump. And when you love the Lord with all your heart and with all your mind, and you say to the Lord, Lord, guide my life in whatever decisions I've got to make today. Because every day, like I've been saying, we make decisions for good or for bad. It doesn't have to be whether I'm doing the wrong thing or the right thing, but everything that we do. If God is there, if God is showing the way, if He is in our path, and we are loving Him with all our heart, guess what? God is going to show us precisely where we need to go, because we are teachable. We've let God make us like clay. We haven't allowed ourselves to become like stones so hard that God cannot work with that. Until we become like clay, then God becomes our potter. Do you get that? There is a text that says that God is the potter and we are the clay. But we need to be the clay. We cannot be hard and so strong that we are so hard, like steel, that instead we rust and we die. But if we are moldable, God can show us. Sometimes in every day that we make decisions or we go forward, sometimes we put a stop to God. And we may think, oh yes, we're doing fine. But think about it. Think about when you came to the Lord, how it was with you when you came to the Lord. Remember that? Do you remember the last time you said to the Lord, whatever, Lord, you make me, next time. And then what happened next? What has happened since then? Have you reviewed your life? Have you asked the Lord, please, Lord, show me what's really going on? I could say, well, I'm a Christian, I'm fine, God is blessing me, God is doing this and that and that. But am I doing everything God wants me to do? Perhaps God wants us to do something even bigger than what we've done in the past, but sometimes we're not willing to step out in faith anymore. In the past we've done decisions, and perhaps I heard one day, this man used to say to me, to do that you have to be crazy. Right? You have to be crazy. To believe like that, you got to be crazy. Yes, I think that we ought to be crazy for God. Those that believe in God, in the eyes of the world, we are crazy. Do you realize that? Why is it that people don't just, say, oh, we want to be like you? Because a lot of the times, some of the stuff that we do, it goes totally against the grain. And it is crazy in their eyes. When I decided to go on full-time ministry with the rest of other youth, studying endless praise, found in that group. In the beginning, people used to say, but haven't you considered your future? You're throwing away your future. And some people would say, you're going to lose money. Shouldn't you be sort of like making a nest for yourself for the future? And making sure that you got all the education possible right at this moment? Guess what? Everybody that went into ministry and started to doing the right things that we thought, right now, God has blessed them with education. Out of all the people that I know, they're one of the ones that have more money than anybody else. And yet at the time, they were probably the poorest, and people were laughing at them and saying, you should be doing this. And I'm talking about Christians. I'm talking about Seventh-day Adventists, telling other Seventh-day Adventists that they were not in the right track. I just wonder what people would have thought of Paul when he made that decision to become a Christian. Remember, he was pretty high up. And he gave it all away. He said, I count that as dung, he said. I count, I don't want to say the proper word, but he said, I count that as rubbish. Everything I had before is rubbish. Some of us, we need to step out and be like that too. Peter said, we have left everything for the sake of God. And you may say, well, that is only for some people. No, it's not. It's for everybody. The calling, when God calls all of us, He calls us into full time for Him, not to be part-timers. We're all disciples. We're all into ministry. I'm simply a pastor, that's all. But we're all into ministry. We're all soldiers of the cross. And we all need to make decisions that are good every day. Somebody has said that we're only as strong as the weakest in that group. Guess what? It doesn't matter how strong I could be. It doesn't matter if we had everybody here, 99 of us were totally right up there, fighting for God and really up there for God. If there was one of us who was really weak, that is how strong we are. We're not stronger than that person. All of us are strong as that one person. So some of us may think, oh, church is not important. Yes, it is. Guess what? God is the head. We are his body. How dare we say that church is not important? When God expects his body to be together, not be disjointed. He doesn't expect us to be here and there and everywhere. He expects us to come together and let him be the head, not the pastor, not the head elder or somebody else. Let him be the head, and let us be guided by his grace, by his wisdom. But we need to do this for God. Jesus is the light of the world, and he can give us wisdom. I'd like to give you a last text. I love this text because even though it doesn't say wisdom, again, this is about relationship. Look at what it says here. Psalms 37, verse 4. This is a really good text to have. It says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. It says simply, delight yourself. It's simply saying what Jesus said. Love the Lord with all your heart. Delight yourself in the Lord. And he will basically pour out his blessing to you. Don't put restraints on God. Don't put restraints. Some of us think that we can do better than God. We can't. We can't. Really, we can't. If we're honest about it and we look at our lives and we will fail miserably if we don't do this. If we don't, just delight in God. Let him come into your life. And when we delight in God, we're saying to God, Lord, you are so wonderful. You are so great. Please do with me what you want. And guess what? God says, because you are one with me. He doesn't have a problem, providing for you this, providing for you that, providing for you all these things. Solomon said to the Lord, Lord, all I ask of you is one thing. One thing. What was that? Wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is to have the insight and to know exactly what to do next, what to say next, where to put your feet next. Ben Carson says that every time, well, he's not a practicing surgeon anymore, but when he was one of the top brain surgeons in the world for children. And he would say that as far as he is concerned, the best thing that a brain surgeon can have is to ask God for wisdom, is to have wisdom in his life. Why? Because he says, Every time I go into an operating table, you might think, wow, some people, if he said that openly in public, some people, probably less people would trust him. But he says, I make sure that I pray to the Lord so that he would guide my hands. Because I know that when he's there, I make better surgery. With all the knowledge that I have, I need that wisdom from God, he said. And he's a very smart cookie, very clever man. But he knows that he needed, and he knows that he needs wisdom from God. Some of us might not be as clever as him, but we need that wisdom from God to make us do those decisions every day and to do the right ones. You know, the best decision that we can make today is to what? Is to be with God. You know, if I make that decision today, I know that every time I've preached here or you know in other churches, I spend a lot of time praying before. Because I know that if I don't, a lot of what I say will offend a lot of people for nothing. But guess what? And this is, God knows me. He knows that I'm naturally, in my old self, I'm a pretty blunt person. I can be pretty raw. I can put my foot everywhere. I can blow you apart if you're not careful. But I know when God is with me, He puts a stop in my mouth. He puts kind of like a bridle that I cannot understand, and I'm more of a diplomat than anything else. And the right words come, and I can go through my life knowing that God is with me, and that most of the things that I have said and done have been with His blessing. May God be in your life so that you can make all these beautiful decisions, because remember, God is always light. And He wants us also to have the same light in our lives. May God bless you.
Thank you for joining us. For more messages, information on upcoming events and church services, please visit us at www.springvale-adventist.org.au.